All right, so welcome back into our live stream. Hope we'll be able to hold the stream here for our second attempt. I think it's going to be a good one, though. And that is diving into the top 20 altcoins. We'll, of course, cover some of the market moves, where this is going this week, what kind of conditions are we in, and how Bitcoin maybe is going to respond. But, of course, altcoins will be in the topic for today as we break down the top 20. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath here. We're going to dive into where altcoins are going today. Before we get started, I want to jump over to our sponsors, and that is iTrust Capital. Big sponsor of the show. They've been around helping us for some time, and a big thanks to them. They do a phenomenal job when it comes to your IRAs. Now, if you're looking at IRAs for long-term investing, again, this is one of the things that I use. Definitely not financial advice, but the point is it's going to give you a chance to go out and do a little research on iTrust Capital, learn a little bit about how maybe you should be going into crypto IRA investing. And the cool aspect of iTrust that I like is their mobile app. They've got an unbelievable, this is a new refreshed website also. The other advantage that I think shows just the sign of growth for this particular company is the fact that they are moving into a lot of new tokens. And I want to just show you some of the new tokens that they've got. Obviously, Coinbase, on the custody side, they're protected with Fireblocks. So again, for cold storage. But the cool thing is they've added a lot of new tokens. And if you look at what is happening right now, you've got Decentraland, Chainlink, Polkadot, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, of course, and Cardano been there. New to iTrust Capital is, of course, Avalanche, and also Tezos, Sushi, and Maker. So a lot more expansion of tokens. So it gives you a lot broader base when you look at long-term investing, because some people like to, go around with some of these altcoins, which is a perfect topic for today's show. But the cool aspect of this is you're going to get $100 in Bitcoin when you use our link below. So make sure and click the link below. You get $100 in Bitcoin. You can go in, sign up for the account before you even fund it, learn a little bit about what they're doing, and understand really what and how an IRA can work for you. Let's get into some of the stories today. I want to jump over to really kind of just in general what the current status is. When I look at, let's look at one right here. If I can get this one, there it is. Sometimes this one site likes to jump around a little bit, and I'm in some of them. As markets churn, battered investors brace for the Fed meeting. This is the thing that we've been talking about in a couple of the videos this week, is really kind of the attention to what's happening on the FOMC meeting and what that might mean on Wednesday. This is coming up tomorrow. The likelihood is we will most likely see a softening approach of the Fed just because of the immediate impact that we had this past week from the traditional markets. And I think traditional markets being hit so hard, 17% drop, has been a pretty good wake-up call, I think, for what the Fed is going to be addressing in being able to tentatively not plunge the United States into a recession. Because obviously if this goes with a little bit more hawkish approach, then Jerome Powell could cause a recession with what we're trying to deal in terms of just tightening the QE and looking at easing how we are rolling out for the economy in general, which of course is going to control inflation. The other thing that I think when you look at just, some of the things that I'm following here, I follow Will Clemente and just some of his notes. And if you guys haven't had a chance, you should check his Twitter account out. But he does a good job at really kind of breaking down different aspects of it. This is a hardcore base of Bitcoin holders that are doing dollar cost averaging relentlessly, no matter the direction of the price. And I think this has been shown to be a factor in what a lot of people are doing with Bitcoin and to some extent Ethereum right now, which I think will have a little bit of an overwatch on how Bitcoin is going to respond overall. If you look at what's happening with the rainbow chart, I wanted to kind of zoom in on this one today, because it does have it still cheap right there at where we are on 37.3. And that I think is a very interesting aspect. We haven't bumped out of the rainbow chart throughout its era in the past 4 years. So you can kind of see where and what this looks like it's doing. And I like the fact that this is still cheap, but it definitely isn't one where we've dipped down into here, which if we do, you're talking about around an $18,000 bottom. So that would be a problem for Bitcoin and, of course, the altcoin market if we were to see those kind of dips. Now, the big question is, what are the tokens that are going to be breaking into the top 20? I won't go in any specific order. I'm going to drop into a couple of news items. Then we will get into the individual charts themselves. One of the topics, of course, is here's what's next for Cardano, Polkadot, Terra, and 4 additional altcoins according to Top Crypto Trader. And really what they're saying here is there's a lot of upside with most of these projects. Cardano, the trader says that the level of $1 for Cardano could hold, but if it fails, we could see ADA going down to 40 cents is where they're talking. Now, I will say this, ADA made our top 20, has not been in the top 20 for months. And I think a lot of this is, again, a little bit of the trailing aspect, but there's some things happening within the ADA community that is causing a little bit of unrest, and I'll go into a little bit of that. Another coin on the traders list is DeFi payment network Terra, according to the Altcoin Sherpa. Area between 30 and 40 can serve as key support lever, so you can kind of see where this one is holding, and definitely in a position where it could hold, and I think Terra is going to be in a position where we could see some pretty interesting moves. So that, along with just what we're seeing right here on Terra and Luna in general with the Anchor protocol. If you have not looked at the Luna ecosystem and what they're trying to do, it's an important process that Do Kwon, and you should follow Do Kwon, who is the founder of Terra Luna, and what they're trying to do, and I think just the whole aspect and their connectivity based on both Anchor and also the Merrick protocol really makes it a project that we continue to keep a real close eye on. So, big one. Make sure and hit the like today. We want to get as many likes into this. We are going to be doing some giveaways hopefully this week. So, big advantage is want you guys to jump into the Diamond Circle, and we'll drop some links down below how you can get into the Diamond Circle. So you're going to be making sure that you're part of some of our giveaways. Let's go on here. I want to jump over to this one, and this again goes back to what the Motley Fool is saying around Terra Luna. Aims to make financial markets more efficient, platform variety, etc. on stablecoins. This one is one of those, again, designed to absorb volatility. It's an algorithmic stable when you look at Terra USD. But in general, when you look at Luna, the ecosystem itself continues to become a very powerful component in the growth aspect of how they position themselves in the altcoin arena. So I think this one is one I'm really looking at. Another one that showed up in the top 20 was Algorand. Algorand has been on our charts for quite some time, but it disappeared out of the top 20 for quite some time. And part of that was just because there were so many projects that were just trending and people really going into them, because we've seen a lot of new entries in the top 20 over the past 60 to 90 days. Algorand prior to that had been holding a pretty good strong position back in the top 20 this week. So I'm still very interested in that. Make sure and check out our video on Algorand. We've done a couple with their Chief Operating Officer, Sean, over there. And they really go into kind of the technology side of what they are doing and just their differentiation capacity of what Algorand is doing as a blockchain is very intriguing. If you have not really got into understanding Algorand, I would go research that one in a big way. Before we get into our poll, just remember these are market movers. The idea with market movers, we're going to present some data. We're going to give you guys some rankings. We're also going to give you our opinion on how some of these projects are moving, whether or not that we will see the market start to shift, but not financial advice. This, of course, is hopefully just research that is getting you guys going in the right direction. I want to jump to our poll because I know we had a list of how many coins are you holding, especially in the altcoin. This is minus Bitcoin and ETH, 1 to 10, 49%. Wow, that's a big one. And then 10 to 50, 40% on that. So, wow, this is great. Oh, we just rolled over. So 50% of you are very narrowed in on 10 or less coins, which is interesting to me because I think that is indicative of what happens in these kinds of markets is people start to reel in some of their edgier projects or projects that maybe they're not as pumped on or really faithful to in the essence of they understand what it's doing, why it's doing, and they want to support that. And I think that leans into what the 50% crowd is doing right there. Let's get over here to Cardano's Woes. This was a tweet that came out, and I just want to kind of follow up here on what they were talking about. But Cardano projects Sunday swap and CardStarter squabble over failed promises to investor. And Charles basically got a little heated on this, saying, you guys need to work this out. But it's an ongoing drama between the two projects that are built on ADA, the blockchain, escalated across multiple social media platforms on Monday. And this kind of surprised the community. I think everybody thought everything was cool and happy-go-lucky in the ADA community. In fact, this was an issue, and CardStarter announced it would launch its own decentralized, their own DEX exchange. Shortly thereafter, its founders incentivized investors to provide liquidity for the project on Uniswap in exchange for native CSwap tokens. So that was an issue. And then you've got CardStarter, who would no longer develop its promised DEX and would instead provide liquidity to the existing Sunday Swap DEX. So lots happening here. The social media component gets a little, but you should check it out anyway. If you go to CardStarter, they're kind of airing out their dirty laundry just to show you what this looked like and what is happening out there. And they literally were posting this within their Twitter account to show what's happening in terms of valuation, going from, well, I think it was 10 million to, from 150 million to 10 million right there from Atash Amir. So the point being is that with Cardano having these kinds of issues and the scenario of what I think, my point is that I think we're going to see Cardano in the top 20 for a short period of time. And I think we saw the run up, we've seen the potential, and I think Charles is very upset about this because this really kind of puts a little bit of a squash on the Cardano ecosystem. And I think the real fans of Cardano are looking out there going, wait a minute, why aren't we all working together on this? Why aren't we all trying to move this project forward? Instead, we've got this squabbling that's happening, and that is an issue. All right, I want to thank also our sponsor, FTX. If you guys have not and are not using FTX, I would check this one out because it is one of those exchanges. First of all, their mobile application is just it's fantastic. They've really made a lot of improvements for FTX US Pro and then FTX, the base application. Lots of things happening within the platform from an exchange standpoint. And of course, if you're a big fan of, Sam Bankman-Fried, you understand the innovation that they're into. And they are going into crypto in a big way in the sense that they're investing into a startup fund, which is going to be fantastic for evolution on what we'll see in and from and around the FTX community. But also they've got a variety of new products there. One, of course, is their NFT platform, which you can buy and exchange NFTs right there on Collect and Mint NFTs within FTX. We're seeing other exchanges start to kind of follow this lead, but FTX has really been kind of a cutting edge proponent of NFTs and how it's going to affect crypto in the coming years. So good for them. I think this is a good one to use. It is one of the least expensive exchanges out there when you compare this to many of the other exchanges. So that is, if you're into really saving money and getting in your trades for as little of fees as possible, try out ftx.us. And of course, you can check the link below. I want to jump over also to Cosmos, which is another project that we've been watching very closely. And of course, it had an 8% surge amid their airdrops and also the Polkadot bridge, which was a big feature. I think we'll continue to see Cosmos, and we've seen a lot of movement in Cosmos. It broke into our top 20, our last top 20 that we reported a couple of weeks ago. We're trying to get these out to you guys on a more frequency basis, and I will be showing you something today that you guys have never seen, and that is going to be our new CPI live dashboard that is going to start giving you this kind of availability. You don't have to wait for a YouTube drop in a way, and it will give you these more updated incremental data points around sentiment and amplification. So I'll show you that here as well. Matter of fact, let's jump over to it. But let's jump over to it now because I think this will give you guys a little bit of an understanding of what's going on. Let me kind of close that one here. All right, so when you go to our website, this is typically what you will see is just our general page. You'll jump over here to this thing we call the Crypto Power Index, which will give you, eventually you're going to have the ability to jump over to our actual dashboard. And our dashboard is going to live right here. So this is the Top 20 altcoin. Let me see if I can go back to, yeah, the power index. It'll probably run the overall. We're working on graphics right there. So you guys are getting a chance to see this really in beta format, but we've got the Bitcoin to overall chart coming in, the Ethereum to overall chart. This is a 12-week run that's running with live trajectories here. Our altcoin, less Bitcoin and ETH, and then our metaverse gaming, and also DeFi. And then when you get into our breakdown into the top 20s, this will start giving you the breakdowns individually. I'm kind of sneaking into our actual chart here, but this will give you a breakdown of the actual projects that are running, and we will be updating this. We may be doing this daily, definitely weekly. We're looking at trying to really amp these up. It goes into each one of the projects that are ranking. So as you can see here, Terra Luna ranking number 1, Avalanche coming in number 2, and then Cosmos, Atom. Let's go take a look at the rest of the chart here. So this again is going to be a new dashboard that you'll be able to navigate in through a lot of these elements. So the CPI home, we'll have the new metaverse high cap group here. We'll also have the gaming low cap in here. So you'll get a lot more of this live data along with our chart trajectories on the top 3 as we get into each one of these rankings. So that's kind of the way the layout is going to be. But pretty cool stuff. I'm going to jump over to our run up right here on altcoins and just go and give you guys the top 20. All right, so taking a look at the crypto power index CPI scores in the top 10, Terra Luna coming in at number 1, Avalanche, as you saw, number 2, Cosmos right there at number 3, really nested. All 3 of those had been holding very solidly and closely. Now, one that I want you to pay attention to is Cosmos because of the fact their amplification score is nested right against it. It's one of the only ones out there, with exception of Polygon, that broke into this category of really supreme amplification scores. So you've got Chainlink, H-bar, which again, we see a little bit of a softening of H-bar, so that usually tells me we're going to see a little bit of a downturn on H-bar. Cardano, again, softening on amplification. And then Phantom also softening a little bit, so that's an interesting one to watch very closely. Binance Coin about midway, and Polkadot also softening on amplification, but definitely a top 10 project. And then Polygon coming in at number 10. Let's go into our 11 through 20. Helium coming in. This is another project that's overperforming on amplification, so I'd watch this one. Elron about midway. Algorand, we could not pull enough data on AMP to be able to give that one as a publish point, so we're still pulling data on Algorand to be able to give that, but they showed up in the sentiment ranking right there at number 13. So good stuff there. Arweave comes in at 72.25. XRP moved up the list. Amplification, though, still a little bit soft. So that tells to me that we still have a long way to go for the XRP community to really ramp this up. So the XRP army, if you guys are out there, listen, we got to get this thing going because this is a big deal for, I think, the future of where that case is going to be going on the SEC guidelines. OMG coming in, and then also Solana slid way back into the pack, but still holding on at 71.59. Remember, these are decent scores, but all of these are down because of the market in general. Bitcoin is still, to me, coupled to what's happening in altcoins. And we've seen that in this particular case. Metis DAO, this one is definitely going to be a short-term top 20. Their amplification is terrible in this particular. So sentiment was scoring. This usually indicates an influencer or some of that nature that's kind of pumping that that sentiment up. But if you look at the next one right next to it, these are ranked obviously by sentiment. Near Protocol getting ready to overperform. This is another one I'm watching very closely. And then Tezos coming in with a pretty respectable amplification and sentiment score, so at 71.46. So right there, nested in to Near Protocol, tying for number 9, 10. So cool stuff here. I think the advantage is as we look at these charts and as we look at where some of these altcoins are going, the big question is can these rebounds happen? And I want to go to the Bitcoin chart just in general quickly. One thing we're trying to do now is give you guys the rundown on the daily sentiment score. So it'll give you a little bit, and I want to zoom in on this a little bit so you guys can kind of see what's happening here a little bit more. And going in on the daily here, if I look past the last 10 days or so, sentiment was at 61.94 right here on January 7th. And then we plummeted to 60, well, not plummeted, but stabilized at 62.03 with a 58 on sentiment. Looked like we were going to get an uptrend, and we did. And then right now, sentiment holding at 62.81 on this green candle and 59.28. So it's still, amplification is a little bit soft, but it is up a little bit from this red candle, which occurred on January 22nd. Then you've got your daily right there on the 23rd, and where we're standing right now after our green close on the 4th, and right there on the 25th. This could mean a red candle is starting to appear. So this is one of those things that I'm continuously watching as we start to chart these out and really understand how sentiment is being affected by what's happening in the market space. Avalanche, kind of the same scenario a little bit. They are on an uptrend right here, as you can kind of see. Let's kind of zoom in on this one right here a little bit. And you can kind of see, we've been scoring this one for quite a while, but you can kind of see the fall off from 77.81 back here in January 7th all the way down here to 71, which of course has been that big drop in what we saw in the market, 71.06, but we saw a little bit of a recovery right here on 73.04 and a 72.98. This is where the AMP score, we're still trying to fill this one in to make sure that this is fully accurate, because this would tell me that we've got additional upside for amplification and where Algorand could be going in the future. So right now I'm looking very positive on Algorand as it's going. Luna, kind of the same scenario. There's a little bit different here in the sense that you've got a green candle over here at 75 and a 73, and then a slight drop into 74 and a 73.06 right here on today's red candle that they're forming. So this one tells me that we are in a little bit of a bearish movement down, even though it's, as you can see, a 75 and a 74 trailing in these few days. So this one is one that, even though it's still ranking very high on our weekly for the overall, the potential right here, at least if you're trading on shorts, like, sometimes I'll go in and do swing trades. These are kind of things that we'll watch. Now, does this mean that we're going to see a full downward trend? It's too tight to see a big drop, at least right now. Again, some of these things that really fall into this are these kind of gray swan events. The one that I'm most concerned about is tomorrow with the FOMC meeting, because that could have both a positive and or a negative. It may already built into this little bit of a light recovery of people saying, hey, wait a minute, maybe they're not going to go as deep of a cut into the correction, or the alternative is they hold their line and stay on that hawkish side and kind of get into that. Atom was our final, and of course, Atom has had a couple of green days here. This one, of course, right here on January 23rd, had a nice little move, and then what we saw right here, trading at 35.72 before we started to see our downward trend right now, which is another red candle on this one. But the good point is that yesterday we had a good sentiment or a bullish sign on Atom that we could see an upward trend here. So this one is a little different between a 73 and a 75. And then also the amplification jumped a little bit from a 70 to a amplification score of 73.88. So good stuff there. I think the key here is that altcoins are very tied to what's happening in the Bitcoin space. So before we get to questions, I want to jump over to our other poll and take a look at what the results on here. So which of these week's top three altcoins do you own? Luna, all right, Luna number one. Interesting. And Avalanche, Cosmos, nice job. All right, well, that's a good indication of where the market is going. I think if we just compile all of our family and part of the PBN and the Diamond Circle, and we probably have a very good indication on where sentiment is kind of pointing in the direction for Bitcoin and a lot of these projects. So let's get into the questions, because I know there's a lot today. Just in, head of YouTube Gaming takes up position as CEO of Polygon. Wow. Okay. Interesting. This is a big one, Sky Limitless. I love it when Sky Limitless brings in the dope stuff. You bring in the good stuff. If that's real, this will be a big deal in Polygon. In Polygon, we still show up quite a bit. In fact, I think in the thing, it was the only one that, interesting. That's an interesting position, because let me jump back to Polygon at number 10. Yep, sure was. Very interesting. So you'll notice right here, Polygon holding in at 73, Look at that amplification score of 73.26. It's overperforming. So anytime we see that, it usually indicates something is happening in that particular project. And because all of these projects have such a relationship to what's happening in the market, there you go. So big one. Bobby Coons, would you buy coins now or wait and see what the Feds do? I think for me, because it's Tuesday afternoon, I'm waiting on the Fed to give us a report. But I would be ready. If you got dry powder on the sidelines, I would be ready for something where we could see a little bit of a move both ways. We could see a move downward. Now the question is how far will that fall be? And all of that depends, I think, on what the Fed is holding. A lot of people are really, really pointed in on where the Fed is going this week. Do you think Bitcoin will go up to 45? I think, we had our analyst Aldo in this week. He has a ton of charts toward that this is still in the bull market. We are seeing a bearish trend for sure, and definitely seeing some sideways action right now. But he is leaning in on a bullish trend toward, and I still have that feel that we are in a bull market. Now, are we, and could we be in a bear market? Could this be a dead cat bounce? There are many out there that are pointing to this as a little small dead cat bounce, and that really tomorrow will indicate whether or not it is or it isn't. So, short answer, I feel like we are and potentially can get there. Question is when. Time to get out of ETH. So Major Snuffy, this is one of those that I feel like, I know one thing, it depends on your exposure. If your exposure is, a very small percentage to a moderate percentage of your portfolio, you're probably okay. For me, I'm a little overexposed on ETH, so I should be just repositioning that just as a good investment strategy. So that's what I'm doing. Thanks for the super chat coming in. Do you think crypto has fully priced in the chance of Russia invading Ukraine? No, I don't think so. Prediction on how much further down we could go if that were happen. I think that could be an issue, but it will depend on, again, what is happening in the traditional markets, because I think the traditional markets have been able to somehow affect these markets to an extent that a lot of people were not anticipating. And that is going to be a factor. Ukraine, I mean, if you throw in a global potential war, that's going to affect everything. We will see massive moves if that. So you should be looking at geopolitical scenarios here in this particular scenario. So I would definitely not put it beyond it. Do you expect a rapid turnover in your rankings? We do. What we're seeing is, again, I always look for the top 20 to see, when I'm betting on projects, is I'm looking for projects that have shown up in the top 20 multiple weeks in a row. And the more I have of that, the more faith I get in the community and usually in what they're doing as a project. At least it will get me moving in the direction of saying, I need to go research that one. It's showing up in here way too much, more than I would anticipate. And that's kind of like Cosmos has been over the past few weeks. And Phantom was another that had been showing up that had not been in the top 20. So, and the same thing goes with the opposite approach. When things start falling out of the top 20, Cardano has been in and out. Those are the ones that I start to really look at and reconsider my positions in, because that usually gives us good indication. All right, hello Vador, should I sell other altcoins and move them over to Luna? Listen, I'm not going to give you financial advice. What I have done, and this is just a practice that I do at the end of every year, is I will go in and sell my lower 20% of my portfolio and reposition into projects. And I will tell you straight up, I went into AVAX. AVAX is one and probably will continue to be one of my growing holdings. And if we see a decent recovery on Solana, I may reposition some of my Solana bag into Avalanche. So hopefully that gives you, I own Luna. It's a moderate, it's kind of middle of the pack for me. But I like it, very, very much so. Turnover metric, what time tomorrow can we expect to see the effects of the meeting news? I think it's going to be pretty quickly seen in Twitter sentiment. So be following on. We may be reporting live sentiment data on that issue with just what we're seeing in the big projects. And I think overall, the market will respond the next morning, so on Thursday morning. And we may see a sell-off at the end of the day or a jump in the market. So this is going to be a big one. Wednesday's going to be a big day. Do you think Polkadot can go back to its all-time high this year, almost 75% below its LTH? Okay, so Polkadot is one of those projects that I just don't understand why it has not been moving. It continues to perform from an ecosystem, they're doing all the right moves in terms of the parachain auctions. They've got the right kind of talent in place. You know, it just seems like it should be one of those projects that should be moving a little bit more aggressively. If it does not move in another run, then I would be surprised that if it does not do that. So I'm still a fan of that project and I still like it. So it's just one of those that has been a real odd one. All right, we may do a live during the release on the Fed tomorrow. I'm wondering if we should not stream it and just our response video of what we'll be seeing there. Let me think about that. I don't know to what extent they're going to make that information available as quickly as possible, but it's going to be there. What about BNB? BNB has been in and out. Binance, of course, was in our top 20 and in our top 10, has been for the last couple of weeks. So I'm big on BNB. I use it constantly, of course, within that ecosystem. It's like my Ethereum over there, obviously. But the other advantage is it's a great store of value. It's one of those tokens also that does not have the ebb and flow of the rest of the market. It doesn't seem to be hit as hard. If you go look back at the charts on BNB, you'll see what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to seem as hit as hard as some of these other tokens when we see Bitcoin and Ethereum take it on the nose. Are we going to see more downtrend or uptrend coming this year? I think we're going to see some pain yet. I think we are not at max pain yet. The question will be when that might be. Remember, it's always, you know, kind of the summer months, just like this past year, we had that occur. We went from an all-time high, you know, back early last year into a $29,000 Bitcoin and then bounced right back up into a $64,000 Bitcoin. So yes, there is a possibility we could see some max pain this year. The question is, how long are you in these projects? If you're looking for just the next 12 months, things are going to be, you should be more in swing trades if you're looking inside that time frame. If you're looking over the next 5 years, that's a different play completely. Because in that kind of scenario, you're dollar cost averaging on all the dips and you're trying to just do as much allocation or acquisition as you can in the projects that you're really loving. I do see that metaverse gaming, play to earn in general, those will probably insulate themselves against any kind of correction. They will have an impact to a certain extent, but I don't see them having long-term impact. Metaverse is just seeming to really kind of decouple from what's happening in the rest of the crypto space. And I don't anticipate that that's going to slow down anytime soon. All right, you guys, of course, join the Diamond Circle because, as I said, when we do giveaways, it's the only way that you can get a chance to win. Once you join, we put you in the list, we put you in that circle, and that's when we do our spins, and that's when people make money and get those drops from us. So make sure, of course, just click the links below. It's very easy and simple to do. And of course, if you want to maybe have a topic or maybe a project that you want us to take a look at, drop it in the comments if you're catching this after the live stream. And of course, if you want to hit me, it's out on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.